A minute 14. Man in motion. Near side. Then they reverse it with Billingsley. Snap to Young. Drop back. Pressure from the edges. He throws to the near sideline. And it's intercepted. Kelly Ringo at the 21. Off he goes to the 40, to 50, to 45, to 35, to 30. The sideline breaks the tackle and the 10 to 5. Touchdown, Georgia.
Friends, I've been studying this a very long time. And the natural fact is, the results are amazingly consistent. The conferences are the power structures. Now these conferences battle each other for money and power and prestige. So does money equal power? Or does power equal money? Or does prestige garner any of it? So what are these factors? They go hand in hand. And we will follow them as one to understand this creature called college football. Now there's many types of fans. You got traditional fans, the odd and even crowd, and the stat fetishers and the football fans. They love all teams. They just want a good game. Well, a good game is always won. And then you have the big picture crowd. And there's more. But for tonight's video, we will focus on the big picture. And that's right down my alley, so stick around. And we're going to talk about the big picture in college football and the bigger picture than that. And I'll get to that later. When you say, well, General, what is the big picture? Well, you got to look at the programs, how they develop, and who's getting better, who's getting worse. Fortunately, this is right up my alley, as I said. There's a big picture. You have to talk about the transfer portal and the NIL situation. Now we'll get into that, I promise. But we go even bigger picture than that. We have an extended lens here. That is required. Now those things like the NIL and transfer portal, they may cause temporary shifts, but as always, everything returns to the mean. And what I mean is, you have to follow the money. And the rest, and the results, will be crystal clear. What are you saying, General? Are you saying to follow the money and you'll know who will win? Well, yes and no. You follow the power. Who has the power? Who decides the important things? When you know that, the important things will be known. Well, let's get right to it. Every fan right now whose team isn't in the playoffs, one thing. Well, what's that? What's the one thing that they're wondering? Well, we all know what it is. They're wondering when they're going to get good. And now, if your team isn't in the playoffs, now, how close are they? That's the measuring stick, see? Television. But General, we watched all of them teams that didn't make the playoffs. Did they fail? Well, according to television, they did. And TV has all the power. We'll talk later on that. Billingsley in motion goes back to the right side. Again, Price stands back.
looks, throws, it's intercepted. Caught by the Bulldogs around the 20, up to the near side, the 25 to the 50, the 40, down the near sidelines, the 20 to the 15, to the 10, to the 5, is a touchdown. Georgia on their second interception of the night.
Well, thank you kindly for joining us here. Television is the daddy. The massive amounts of money paid directly to conferences by television gives it a lot of power. How much power? Well, now first understand our rules here. We observe, not judge. So, if something could happen, then it might. And probably will if it involves money. It's a battle between money, power, and prestige. Now, all this money paid to the conferences directly give the conferences the next leg on the power of the chain of command, television, and then the conferences. Now, are they bedfellows? Are they enemies, or some variation of the two? If that's how you follow this out, you take the chain of command, one in power, and then on down the line, and understand how the pecking order works, and you can pretty much figure out what's going to happen next in college football. We're going to figure out, can television affect the outcome of a football game? Could it happen? We're going to talk about that. Our coulda, shoulda, woulda segment tonight, we're going to work on coulda television affect the ball game that you are watching. You think it's ever happened? Well, we'll see. Well, television might ruin college football. Well, that's bad. No, that's good. Because you can trust television. We always have. Well, that's good. No, that's bad. On account of they haven't actually been trustworthy, at least not in a gentlemanly fashion, as we might should expect. Well, speaking of trustworthy, coming up next to have the most trustworthy portion of our program, where we talk about coulda, shoulda, woulda. Yeah, sure, coulda, shoulda, woulda. If you're new, coulda, shoulda, woulda is every episode will highlight a situation in college football that either could, shoulda, or woulda happened, guaranteed to be a concern. Things that we should talk about. It's a lot that these things are going to matter. It's our lot where we learn something. And many of us have our regrets, something that we could have done different. Tonight, it's a coulda situation, as in could a college football game be manipulated to change outcomes of games? Well, the biggest question is, could a referee turn a loser into a winner, or vice versa? SEC officials are the employees of the SEC. Could a conference exert any influence on the outcome of a football game? Sounds like it's impossible to imagine. But they say penalties equal out. How many times has Alabama benefited from a penalty and won a big football game, even championships? A lot of teams can say that. Is that some conspiracy, or is it just the breaks? We happen to believe that there's a little more to it. I do have another video concerning that subject. Be sure to check in there, how the picture's showing up there. But anyways, if it's going to be manipulated, there's only one place that would start, and that would be with the officials. So how can we find out just how honest the zebras are? Well, that's what we got to find out next. Or we may have to stop right here because we wanted to find out if you could manipulate a football game, and we want to prove that we can. And we've already deduced the three main components: that college football is run by money, and money, which is television, supplies the money to the conferences, making the conferences indebted to the television networks for this volume of money. And now the conferences have the money and distribute it to the teams. Is there any way that this money, through the way power works and flows, is there any way that it's actually been able to manipulate things? And that's a real serious, in-depth kind of thing, and we are just beginning on that journey. So this is kind of like the first leg. We want to find out if there's any way, or if the games couldn't possibly be fixed. We want to find out which way it could go. And I say fix is not what I meant. What I meant was, can outside forces, whatever they might be, the NIL, recruiting, any number of things, could there be someone putting some pressure on someone who could change a football game? And we're going to talk about how it could actually happen. Well, all right then. This version of Coulda, Shoulda, Woulda has gone a little longer than we intended. We're going to take another opportunity to do a separate video to continue the study of, could college football be tampered with? Could the results be affected by outside influences other than football players on the field? Thanks for joining us, and be sure to look for that next video as we continue this very important topic. And go Dogs!